Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, I'm joined by Gareth Kirk this evening. Gareth is down in Biggar. He's a deputy chairman of the family party. Welcome, Gareth. Nice to see you back again.
Good to see you too, Richard.
We've got all sorts of things to talk about tonight, as ever. Now, let me just check what's in the title, because the thing I keep doing is I miss things that are in the title. So the title, Gender Ideology is Not Dead. We're definitely going to talk about that. Gillian McKay is wrong. We're definitely going to talk about that. Sarwar, the sectarian. Now, that's an interesting story. We'll get to that later. I was quite surprised. If it had been Humza Yousaf, I'd have been moderately surprised, but I'd have been extremely unhappy. This is from Sarwar. I think Sarwar is the cuddlier version of Humza Yousaf. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, right, off we go. Just to say before we start, Gareth, are you coming to Alan Brown's retirement dinner?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Those of you who are members will know we're having a special dinner to commemorate the service of Alan Brown as the family party treasurer. He stood down and Ewan Morris has taken over now, but we're having a dinner for Alan. So if you're a member or a donor through our admin system, then you'll have got an invitation to that. So it'd be great to see you there in a couple of weeks. Gareth, glad you can make it. Right, let's have a look. This is something I put on social media just as a reminder, really, about the wedding box policy. We came up with the wedding box, copying the baby box, basically, because the SNP love talking about the baby box. If you ask an SNP supporter, name me something good that the SNP's done in however many, 17, 18 years, whatever, in power. Often the first thing they'll say is the baby box. Now, you may think that's completely ridiculous, that like putting a few goodies for babies in a box and giving it to parents, that's the most popular thing. But it is. It captures people's imagination. People understand it. It's tangible. It's concrete. It's a really effective policy. So we thought we'll copy that and have a wedding box for newlyweds. And that is exactly what we did. And did it work the way we hoped it would? Well, yes. The media loved reporting on it. So when the BBC go through our manifesto and try and find things to pick out to talk about, what do they like to pick out? Oh, the wedding box. They're pro-marriage and they've got this equivalent of this box to give to married couples. And I've shared this on social media. And it's gone pretty widely as well. It's been shared quite widely. And a lot of people like it. So I think it's a good policy. So, Gareth, I'm going to give you a test now. Everyone watching as well, fire the comments in. Let's see. No. Can anyone name any of the things in the wedding box? Gareth, can you remember anything in the wedding box? This is very unfair, isn't it?
Oh, dear. Anything in the wedding box? I expect it to be a card saying congratulations.
There is a card. Messages of congratulations and best wishes. That can be included in the box, and anyone in the community can choose to write one.
Oh, very good.
So there's a special system where, you know, whoever you are, if you're a church leader or a community group leader or just anyone, you know, a retired person who wants to spend time writing some nice wedding cards, anyone can write a greetings card, and it goes in the box. Right, we've got an answer here. Right, Vicky, quite right. There are gift vouchers. What are the gift vouchers for? A honeymoon voucher for, I think it's a 3-night stay in Scotland, a discount on a 3-night stay in Scotland, a voucher for the fees of a wedding celebrant, a picture framing voucher to get the wedding photograph signed. So, yeah, there's a few vouchers in there. Anniversary meal vouchers as well, which we thought would be a good way of reinforcing the value of marriage. And the other things were basically manuals and guidebooks to things. Yeah. And the box. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that's the one thing really missing. So I was sharing like the the marriage course from the Alpha Marriage course.
Yeah.
I was thinking from like so good. I've not been in any other marriage course which has been so good, and I think definitely a manual would be really, really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, well done, Mary. Financial book. Leroy, we'll have to speak to the umpire there. I'm not sure if you entered that after I'd said it. I'll be honest now, but you're quite right. Anniversary gift vouchers are in there, and the box itself, which we do clarify, is not for the married couple to sleep in. The baby box is to put the baby into, and we do emphasize that that's not part of our plan with the wedding box. But moving on, I came across some research about this a few months ago now, but it seems to be popping up from a few directions. This idea that population depends on marriage, the key factor in fertility. There are lots of factors, but the most important factor is how many people get married. And if more people get married, you have more children. Population depends on marriage. And yeah, Gareth, over to you for a bit of local news on this one.
Yeah, so one of the things I picked up on, it was from a local newspaper where it was reading that it had highlighted that in the Peebles Tweeddale area, there were 7 nurseries, proposals for 7 nurseries to be mothballed. And obviously, the proposal initially is for a year, but the obviously idea is they would look at closing them. And of course, there was a bit of a backlash from local MSPs, which I find interesting because when we were doing the elections, as far as I know, only the Scottish Family Party were highlighting that the fertility rates were one of the biggest risks and one of the biggest things calling out. Everyone else was worried about their taxes or a whole lot of plethora of other things, which all right have their meaning, but the Greens highlighting their desire for net zero and carbon emissions, and yet we were highlighting, wait a second, this fertility one is far greater. We're really fighting to be second last, and so I was quite shocked by some of the responses. I think only now do they begin to think, oh, this is terrible. What is the impact, and how did you communicate? And they're kind of shocked for the local community itself, but they're not picking up at all that actually this is the trend of direction. And I think what you've called out and what we've called out first, in Scottish Family Party has been, this is a serious issue.
Is the shock more that someone's lost their job? It's a bit like the post office is closed. So is the shock more that there's a local facility that's been lost, or is it that the population's disappearing? I guess it's the former more.
There was no link at all to the fact that the population is disappearing. And if you think about it, like, large cities probably aren't going to notice that much because they've got, kids coming in from, immigrants and that kind of thing. So you're just going to find different kinds of kids in your nurseries. Whereas in the local area where it's smaller village, when the population disappears there, the nurseries disappear. And the argument of I'm saying first the nurseries, then the schools. So in the People's High School, a friend of mine has a child in P7 now who's going up into high school, and in her class there's 75 kids, and in the P1 class there's 25, and they're like, what are we going to do? This is a complete, there's a massive shortfall, less than half coming in, and massive amounts leaving. So schools are next, and then of course universities are next, and it's just I think it's just the trend of direction. The proof is in the pudding, and we've called it out for ages now, and in our policies, and yeah. So I really think we're going to start seeing an impact.
Yeah, another angle on this, I saw it just the other day. Very interesting. The SNP had been making a big thing of promising to increase teacher numbers by, I think it was 3,500. Your manifesto pledge, we're going to increase teacher numbers by 3,500. And they've sort of quietly dropped it now because they don't need them, because people numbers are going down so much. That we're heading towards the stage where we're training too many teachers. There are not going to be jobs for them. It's a pretty severe situation. But it'd be interesting to see what the response is as this goes into primary school. Basically, teachers are going to be losing their jobs. Schools will be closing. Teachers will be losing their jobs, which are very serious issues, but they're not the main issue. The main issue is the whole financial structure of our society collapsing.
Yes.
That's the main issue.
Yes.
But these other issues, that they will get attention. It'll be interesting to see the response of them. I mean, we've got our placards saying "I told you so" ready already, but but of course that's no good, is it? Well, I mean, we've got policies to try to address this. I'm not saying it's easy to address it, but it's got to be a top priority to try. I always have to mention the Scottish government's plan to tackle population decline, and one of the key recommendations is they should start giving fertility treatments to single women.
That is just shocking.
Totally wrong. Totally wrong. That's all. So, like, encouraging marriage, they couldn't think about that. That would be an outrageous thing to do. But create fatherless children, then they think that might do the trick. Now, let's watch our little clip of Elon Musk on this topic. He's doing quite a lot to raise the issue worldwide. Let's hear from him.
There's a lot of things that I suppose that I worry about, but and some of these things will seem esoteric to people. The birth rate is very low in almost every country, and it's something, unless that changes, civilization will disappear. America had the lowest birth rate, I believe, ever. That was last year. Places like Korea, the birth rate is 1/3 replacement rate. So that means in 3 generations, Korea will be 3 or 4% of its current size. And nothing seems to be turning that around. Humanity is dying.
But this is a worldwide thing. Even the countries with African countries with very high fertility rates, they're going down. I think in terms of immigration, I think wealthy countries will be able to attract immigrants for quite a long time yet. But the problems caused is going to go down to poorer countries as well. I mean, ultimately, it's unsustainable. Unsustainable. But what are the principal factors, do you think, resulting in the low fertility rates?
So it was interesting. I think we are tied with Thailand, fighting for last, right? I think Canada is one of them, but I think Scotland and I think Thailand, if I remember correctly, if you take a look at the birth rates.
South Korea is a lot lower than Scotland.
South Korea. Yes, maybe South Korea. The key thing for me, and it was really interesting. So sorry, that was right. I was speaking to somebody from Thailand, and Thailand were having the same problem. That's where this is coming from. And what he said was, and I thought this is really interesting. He said the reason why women are not getting married, because I said, do you think it's from the LGBTQ ideologies being taught in schools? And I think that's part of it. So Canada has very low rates, so do we. And anyone who is promoting LGBTQ and trying to enforce, the gender neutrality and not embracing marriage, anyone doing that is finding themselves really rapid on going down this drain hole quickly. But the reasoning he gave was really interesting. He said it's because women also don't trust men, and it's because of the social aspect, where actually there is no trust marriage, responsibility or commitment, and without that commitment, I can't trust a family. And that, to me, I thought, wow, that's actually quite a very valid question. Is the next generation more reliable to be fathers and dads and stable and there for their kids? Do they actually, the women may think, well, I'm not going to have a child with somebody that would just be a punishment on the child, they don't want to raise fatherless children. So I don't think the government will uptake I don't think people will uptake the government's offer of raising fatherless children. I think that's actually it's not going to work until you can provide the basis of marriage.
Yeah, there's so many factors in it. It's almost as if someone came up with a 20-point action plan to reduce the fertility rate, they would come up with more or less what's happened in Western nations over the last 50 years. It's all there. I mean, I think that we're tackling the gender pay gap, because currently men on average are paid a bit more than women. But actually, men with high salaries tend to result in marriages.
Yes.
So when we look at men who've got a good income and say, right, there's a good bet, he could provide for a home, he's a good solid bet, we'll get married and we'll have kids and we'll be able to provide for them. But you try and close the gender pay gap, then what you're doing is you're tending to reduce that influence, that drive towards marriage. I think motherhood's been denigrated as a waste of potential. Children are seen as a nuisance. You just want to hand them over to the state. So why not just eliminate the problem altogether? The emphasis on careers for women, I think, reduces fertility. That's not a value judgment. That's just a fact. Housing prices, quality of education, loss of a culture of marriage, sort of extreme environmentalism. I mean, you mentioned LGBT as well. Now, currently, research seems to vary widely. Statistics vary quite widely. But LGBT proportion now, we're talking about, in some cases, a good 5% of the population. Or looking at younger people, it's somewhere, 5 or even higher percent. That's a significant chunk of people to knock off your fertility potential.
Yeah.
So that's a significant factor there.
Yeah, it's all compounding as well. I say it all adds at the same. It's all having a massive effect. I love what you say about the gender pay gap, because that's one of the biggest. So for us, for example, the question of, do you want to have more children? And the answer is no. You can't afford it, because 2 careers, no time, it's just impossible unless you can afford to have a stay-at-home wife, which I think some women would love that. And I think that to me, the good old days of where that used to be the case, where the husband used to earn enough to provide for the whole family, that would be amazing, because then the pressures of living at home and the home complexities, it's really hard when you got trying to do this two jobs. It would just, my wife only works 4-day week. I'd love her to work a 3-day week, 2-day week even. That would be ideal.
That's exactly what family party policies are designed to facilitate. I won't go into any of the details now, but that's exactly what we want to make possible: transferable tax allowance, etc., etc., etc. I was reading this the other day. Catholic Social Principles. It was given to me by one of the monks on Papa Stronzi when we had a family party meeting in Stronzi. He came over, he gave me that to read. And I've just finished reading it. And one of the things the author is very strong about is, it says, if you're going to have a healthy society with healthy family life, then you've got to have men able to earn a wage that enables them to provide for, well, let's assume he's talking about a large family. So to get a house, support a wife, a large family on his income. And it says if a man can't do that, then you've got major problems in your society. Whereas the gender pay gap argument comes in with the opposite. Now, I'm not saying men and women should be paid different amounts, but this is just, it's the fact of how it turns out. That if you don't have high salaries for men, then you tend to have low fertility. And that's so. And the governments in Western nations are deliberately trying to make it so that men don't earn more than women, even though men are often more keen to earn more money. The government doesn't want that to happen. They want to bring it down to equality. So, right, that was very interesting. That's the first time. No, that's it. That's twice in a week. There's that article that you got there about the nurseries closing in the borders. And I came across things about the SNP dropping its increased teaching numbers because they don't need them. So that's the first time I've really heard about this coming home to roost in terms of early years education and primary education. So, yeah, watch this space. I think we'll hear quite a bit more about that in the months to come. Right, what else should we go to? Let's go back to the slides here. This is John Deegan from Spuck. John's a great pro-life campaigner. It says, mainstream media are desperate for a pope who turns their back on the unborn child and somehow changes church teaching on the issue. But they're forgetting one very basic thing. This is literally not possible. Well, delighted to hear it. Delighted to hear it. So let's hope for, the new pope will be very outspoken on this issue, as was the previous pope, but the media just basically wouldn't report it. I've got a pope theory. Actually, I'll try my pope. I think with any pope, I think same with religious leaders in general, the mainstream media look at him and they think either we're going to class this pope as a baddie and just try and make him sound harsh and judgmental and unpleasant and distant and whatever, which was their approach to Benedict, I think. Or if they think they've got someone where maybe they just say things that maybe, they could sound a bit more liberal, then what the media do in that case is try and ignore all the things they don't like, but just try and focus on what they see as the glimmer of hope, and try and build that up and say, oh, this is a really great Pope. He sort of seems like he's saying this, even though it might not be. So it's interesting to see how the media try to do that. But anyway, let's move on. Where are we? So, the National Trust. Now, remember this. Did you see this story, Gareth?
No, I didn't.
Right. This was a few weeks ago now. I went to a National Trust property in Edinburgh, and they had those 3 leaflets on display: women's history, LGBTQ plus history, Caribbean connections, like slavery, black people, etc. I thought, looking at that, that's the classic like progressive social justice agenda, or woke, as some people might call it, agenda coming through. And I thought, right, I'm a National Trust for Scotland member. I thought, I don't really want to see that when I go in. And so I wrote to them saying, women's history, okay, fair enough. But, is there one about men's history? What about other aspects? Because it seems to me, if you just focus on those 3, that seems like a left-wing political emphasis. And I said to them, who would be happier to see those? The average Green voter or the average Reform voter? Now, anyone with any sense knows the answer to that question. So therefore, this is politically contentious. So I got my reply from them the other day. I'll read you a bit of it. They said, our own research found that most Scots wanted the Trust to address all aspects of our past and to use sensitive interpretation to bring them to light. Now, that seemed to me like they did a survey in order to get evidence to justify them putting out this sort of politicized content. So if you ask someone, would you like us to cover all aspects of history? Well, yeah, of course we would.
Yeah.
Would you like it to do it to offer sensitive interpretation? Well, yeah, of course we would. But you see what they're getting at.
Yeah.
But this is their punchline, actually. This is the heart of their defense. They say that these 3 leaflets, which were the only 3 on display in a particular stand when I went, but they said there's other leaflets as well relating to the same property, including one about Reverend Dr. Alexander White, who was moderator of the General Assembly of the Free Church of Scotland, and he lived in that house. Now, to be honest, that's not a bad defense to the point I'd made. I didn't actually see that leaflet. I'm sure they wouldn't just downright lie and make up a leaflet that doesn't exist. But that is, that's a reasonable defense to it. I'm not willing to let them off the hook that easily, though.
Yeah,
these other ones are done with a view to promoting what you might call as like social justice or equity, diversity, equity, inclusion sort of agenda, which is political. So, what do you think? Are you letting them off the hook?
No, I wouldn't be surprised that the very reason why those 3 exist is because somebody came to that one and said, "Oh, hang on, this is a very narrow thing. You should talk about other things," and probably challenged it. You know what I mean? White, average male, hang on, we can't have that. Let's get rid of that leaflet and put these 3 there. I don't think it ran out. But yeah.
Or it could be, well, who knows? I still think regardless, I mean, like LGBTQ plus history. I mean, for example, if a parent's taking their children to this place or the school trip to this place, I don't want that there. Simple as that.
Exactly.
And again, so I still think there's politicization. So I don't know if I'll reply to them. But as far as I'm concerned, I made my point, and they've come back with a sensible reply. It does offer a counter argument to what I put forward. What I'll maybe do is just keep my powder dry for now, keep my eye open around different National Trust properties and see what else I see.
Yes.
But I think the good thing with writing to them is it keeps them on their toes.
Yes, and you could reply, I would love to see that leaflet there next time I come. Yeah. And just
anyway, so that's our National Trust for Scotland. Let's move on from that's how we're doing with Mr. Vida. We have detrimentally low birth rates because we're a wealthier state. By that I assume you mean a bigger government. Possibly. It used to be that you have lots of kids so they can look after you in your declining years. That's not so much the case anymore. That used to be a big motivation for having a big family. It was partly you need them to help on the farm and do the work. Then you need them to look after you when you're older. Right, family party meetings coming up, lots of them. So come along, any of them. The Hamilton one is our by-election campaign launch. I'll come to this in a minute. Andy Brady is our candidate in Hamilton, Lark Hall and Stonehouse. And on the 3rd of May, which is Saturday, we've got his campaign launch at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, an outdoor location in Hamilton. You can see it on social media, but it'd be great to see you along to that. Hopefully we can have a good crowd. Andy will record a video, give a speech, etc. The other meetings are all evening meetings. Generally, they're in Wetherspoons. The great thing with Wetherspoons is they never cancel us, so we can publish the venue. So do look at the social media. You can see details for all of those, and it'd be great to see you along at any of them. So, right. Oh, there's Andy, Andy's wife. So Andy Brady is the first time he's been a candidate. He's been wanting to get more involved in the family party for a little while, so this is an ideal opportunity for it. Andrew is a great guy. Do come and meet him at the campaign launch. There'll be other ways of helping with the campaign as well as time goes on. But the campaign launch event is the one where we really want all hands on deck. The more people we can have there, the better. So if you can make it to Hamilton on Saturday, 11 o'clock in the morning, we would love to see you, and Andy would appreciate that especially. Assisted suicide vote. People are saying that the vote on this might be in the middle of May, which I think I said this last week. What I want to point out this time, in other words, it will be in the middle of the by-election campaign. So we're planning to put the issue not front and center, but prominently, because we will be the only party in that by-election that opposes assisted suicide. So we will want to make that a campaign issue for ourselves. If the vote is halfway through the by-election campaign, then that will really suit us, because an issue that we've got a unique policy on is going to be uppermost in people's minds, hopefully, during it. So there's no guarantee the vote is going to be then, but that's what seems to be being rumored. Right. Before we get on to this big issue here, let's just go over to Anna Sarwar, who I mentioned earlier. So, Gareth, let's see what you make of this.
We will only truly get real power if we just have more Pakistanis sitting in council chambers and parliaments, but actually having more Pakistanis and South Asians sitting in the corridors of power making the decisions. And that's where I'll end tonight, is to say the change is coming. And the days where our South Asian community are viewed as a vote bank or a curry bank are well and truly gone. The days where South Asian communities get to lead political parties and get to lead countries is now upon us. The days when South Asian communities get to decide not just which school our children go to, but what they are taught in those schools is also coming.
Sure.
Right, what do you make of that?
Yeah, it feels somewhat familiar in terms of driving an agenda. It makes me somewhat nervous because it didn't sound very inclusive. Didn't sound like it sounded like very much driving a particular agenda.
Yeah, I think it's not so much saying it's really great. We can be involved just like anyone else. It's as though we're saying we're a bloc with an agenda, and our influence is growing, and we're increasingly going to get our own way. Let's listen to it. Let's listen to it again and see if you think that's fair. Here we go again.
We will only truly get real power If not, if we just have more Pakistanis sitting in council chambers and parliaments, but actually having more Pakistanis and South Asians sitting in the corridors of power.
Right, we will get power.
Real power.
Yeah, well, we will get real power. Who's we? So we as Pakistanis and South Asians, we will get power. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear white nationalists saying, you know, we're the white community, we're going to take control, we're going to get power.
Yeah.
No. Totally wrong.
Yeah.
This is obviously the leader of the Labour Party.
Yeah, and the reason why it feels quite nervous is because it's possible. It feels quite possible. Like one of the things I'm thinking of in terms of like how, as a Christian, like how does it, what kind of impact would that have? You know, the Christianity seems like such a tolerant religion, you know, open to all and everyone, and kind of like, you know, thriving, and well, at least in today's terms, and yet I'm not so sure, you know. Yeah, is this what real power he like? Why does he want real power? What can't he do now that he will do then?
Yeah.
So
well, that's something. I would correct him. I'm not sure you sit in the corridors of power. Anyway, let's go.
Making the decisions, and that's where I'll end tonight. Is to say the change is coming, and the days where our South Asian community are viewed as a vote bank or a curry bank.
What is he on about? I mean, what a bizarre thing to say. I mean, who sees this? Anyway.
Are well and truly gone. The days where South Asian communities get to lead political parties and get to lead countries is now upon us. The days when South Asian communities.
Again, there's nothing whatsoever about what this agenda is. It's not that we're going to tackle a certain issue, that we're going to improve the nation in this way or the other. It's just, it's going to be us. It's going to be our tribe that are going to be in control and have more influence. But that's sectarianism, isn't it?
How's that different to what Hamza Yousaf had? You know what I mean? In terms of, I feel like you're saying it's upon us. Well, it's already happened. So I'm not so sure.
I don't know how old this is. It might be a few years old. I'm not sure. It's the same attitude that Hamza Yousaf has.
Yeah.
But anyway, this last bit's really interesting.
You get to decide not just which school our children go to, but what they are taught in those schools is also coming.
Right, so what's he saying? So he's speaking to this audience, you would imagine predominantly Muslim. And if it's not, well, the ones who are not Muslims would maybe be Hindus or Sikhs, would still be socially conservative. So he's talking about what's taught in schools. We're going to have control about what's taught in schools. So state schools. I mean, is he wanting Islam taught? I mean, is it sex education, the issue? Or people getting on at him saying, we don't want to send our kids to school because of the sex education?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be. I don't know, but I suspect the well, at least I think that I suspect that would need to be changed. But I'd be very surprised if it isn't that you are taught Islam, because that's the. I would say that would be one of the reasons why you need real power.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, maybe saying there needs to be more Muslim schools. Maybe that's. That could be his angle, couldn't it? You can choose your school, and you can choose that it's a Muslim school. I mean, there's no such thing as a Pakistani school. There's like, it will be a Muslim school.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I'd love to know what audience he was addressing here. That would be quite revealing. But again, it's like Hamza Yousaf. That with the family party, we don't say we want the Christians in charge. There's lots of people in the family party who are not Christians, but this is to illustrate why we're not like that. If, say, the Scottish Christian Party said we want Christians in charge, because then Christians will get their way and they can run everything the Christian way, I would say, well, that's wrong.
Yeah,
That's wrong.
I
That's not what democracy is about.
I
We don't
agree
want it
with
to
that.
be a war between Christians and Muslims and atheists and whatever.
No.
But Anna Sarwar doesn't seem to see it that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was quite. Whoever found that clip, dug that clip up. That is quite a find, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I've got David. If there's such a thing as a curry bag, what does that mean? Why for white people to have a fish and chip bag, right? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I haven't grappled with the philosophy of ethnic food banks particularly. So, right, let's go back to right. This is one of the big stories. The Supreme Court's decision. This seems like a while ago now, and I'm quite frustrated that a huge number of people, including a lot of the media, like the Daily Telegraph, etc., that they're talking as though this is a major breakthrough. And these judges it's as though the Supreme Court has said, oh, we're not having any of this transgender nonsense. A woman's a biological female. That's the end of it. That's the law. It's all sorted out now. But it's not that. They've clarified an aspect of the Equality Act. They've clarified what the word woman means in the Equality Act in a certain aspect. But the Equality Act still has provision for transgender people. So we've still got the Gender Recognition Act from 2004 that says a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man.
Oh, wow.
So it's been very frustrating to see people just thinking that somehow they've settled it. But I mean, this was my clarification of the Supreme Court's decision. A woman who's a man can be treated as if she's a man under some circumstances, but he can be treated as a woman in others. And a man with a gender recognition certificate is legally a woman apart from when she's not. And she may still be part of the male sex, but is legally a woman apart from when he's not. I mean, that's the situation now.
Yeah.
Just total
And
mess.
so hang on, wait a second. So we just confirmed that a woman is in the terms of a woman means a biological female, and that a man can become a biological female with a certificate.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just total. That's really good the way you put that there. Yeah, it's just total mess. So the transgender groups are throwing the toes out of the pram. This is from the Scottish Trans Alliance. Now let me show you the bits I want to show you. I think it's the fourth point down. Some people are saying not very much will change. I think I'm one of those people as well. Other people are saying that it will mean that trans people are never allowed to use services and spaces that align with our gender identity, but must use those for our biological sex in quotation marks, because biological sex obviously isn't really a thing. But the next line, if the interpretation that it will mean that trans people are never able to use services and spaces that align with our gender identity, but must use those for our biological sex is right, that will have an enormously negative impact on and cause significant harm to trans people in Scotland and Britain. Now, I thought about that. So I'm talking this, imagine the situation of, let's say, a trans woman. So a man who thinks is a woman, he dresses up as a woman, tries to live as a woman, and may even look like a woman. So if a person saw him, they would think he was a woman. Then, which toilet does he go into? I mean, quite understandably, women don't want him to go into that toilet. Do men want him coming into their toilet? Probably not, because they'll think it's a woman.
Yeah.
So quite understandably, they don't want either. And so you can see once someone's made the decision to live transgender, if you like, then they've created this problem for themselves.
Yeah.
And it is a very real problem. So you can understand that having been led down the path to this point by the government, who said you just fill a form in and you can change sex, you can change gender, that then it doesn't work. It can't work in practice. So
yeah, the problem is, though, and this is the other one, what ultimately then happens is the women can feel, well, I might be going into a change room where there's a man. And what ultimately happens then is that could, well, it is probably more prevalent, and probably not just like bathrooms, but maybe like change rooms, the hospital scenario, where it's kind of evident. Going into a cubicle, you wouldn't know. That's maybe less of a. But if you're going into like a changing room and all of a sudden said woman is now changed and turns out not to be woman, that could be really disturbing. And so you'll have a number, like a huge percentage of population concerned that this might happen, and therefore creating a new set of complexity for everyone. So you're right in terms of you've got a minority who've chosen this way of life in terms of choosing to be this trans population, but how big a problem is it for where a woman who feels unsafe in a changing room, or how do they now need to go to the disabled bathroom into kind of
the illustration I've used, I think I said it last week on the live stream. I'm not sure how well I explained it. It's a bit like if you said, right, we've got the whole structure of mathematics, but we're going to make a change. We're going to say the number 1 and the number 2 are now interchangeable. Yeah. Anywhere in maths you see a 1, you can swap it for a 2. Anywhere you see a 2, you can swap it for a 1. Now that sounds like quite a simple thing, but the ramifications of that, which is the whole of maths would fall apart. Nothing makes sense anymore. The whole structure is total chaos.
Yeah,
and that's what it's like. And I'll say with this as well. I think the most important thing is what this is doing to young people, and families. But the last paragraph of this confirms something I sort of known, but it confirmed it in writing. It talks about the European Court of Human Rights required the UK to introduce the Gender Recognition Act of 2004. I'd heard that. So this is one of the things where the European Court of Human Rights basically forced Britain to introduce the ideology of transgenderism into its legal system. Same with same-sex marriage as well, more or less. So I think that is another reason to say, hang on, European Court of Human Rights says a man has to be able to become a woman has to become a man. Well, bad luck, European Court of Human Rights. Yes. Well, we're not doing it. We're leaving. You don't have authority to impose the ideology of transgenderism on the United Kingdom. So bye-bye. We're not doing it. But that didn't happen. I mean, it's human rights. You can't argue with the European Court of Human Rights. If you go against the European Court of Human Rights, you must be like Hitler Mark II. So only bad people go against human rights. So we just have to do it, don't we? Yeah. No, we don't. Yeah. So that's an interesting insight. The whole area of human rights, I've got a lot of problems with it, but that's a classic illustration. So instead of this being debated properly in Parliament, and maybe put it to the nation in a referendum, put it in your manifesto. So, right, we're the Labour Party. If we get into power, we're going to create a system where if a man fills some forms in and gets some doctors to sign them, then legally, he will become a woman. Yeah. In law. That's in our manifesto. Right, who wants to vote Labour this time? No party would have dared put that in the manifesto. They'd have been a laughing stock through the election campaign. And yet, European Court of Human Rights says it, and okay, right, we just better do it, okay, because you're more important than all the electorate in the United Kingdom. So that's got to go.
Yeah, we can see that in a lot of the education stuff. Often refers to the human right, all the Human Rights Act and
photographed today in Glasgow by my wife. This Post-it note stuck on a toilet door in the ladies' toilets in a public building in Glasgow. Trans person peed here and you lived. Right, that's obviously refuting those people who say that if transgender persons use female toilets, then everyone will die. Well, I'm not sure anyone actually says that. But anyway, so activists are out and about trying to make their point about that. Right, the last one here. This is very interesting. This seems like it was ages ago, but I didn't talk about it last week in the live stream. So this was this court decision that schools have to have single-sex toilets. And again, a lot of people are thinking, oh, thank goodness for that. This judge has said, we're not having this transgender nonsense. Of course, boys and girls need separate toilets. So yeah, I'm going to say they have to have. It's not that at all, not remotely that, because unisex toilets have been built into schools all over Scotland. But the reason this case succeeded is it was based on a 1967 law that outlined how much space you have to give to different facilities within different sized schools. So say, for example, in a primary school with 300 pupils, you need a sports hall of this area. You need an assembly hall of this area. You need this number of square feet of classrooms, which is, I don't know why that needs to be a law, but in any case. But the law also says how much space you have to give to the girls' toilets and to the boys' toilets. Now, this law has obviously nothing to do with transgenderism, but okay, fair play to them. Someone dug this law out and said, well, actually, the law says you have to have boys' toilets and girls' toilets. So that's why they've won the case. Now, the law doesn't stop a school adding, transgender toilets as well, or gender-neutral toilets as well, but the law says you have to have boys' toilets and girls' toilets. So if they want to just have unisex toilets, they'll need to repeal this law and replace it. But I think the SNP government would be their worst nightmare, to have to try and bring that law through the parliament. So again, I think it's one where people are misinterpreting it and thinking that, we've had a return to common sense. But we're not. It's like a legal technicality that this has been based on. But anyway, good news in any case. That's been turned around.
What I like is that the media have misinterpreted both these events and are still showing, they're going to favor the one that's going to attract the most attention. So what I like is they think there's a big user base out there who's probably going to want to know that this is a real topic. So in other words, if anything, it just concludes that the issues that we bring to the forefront are still very relevant.
Yes. Yeah, good point. Yeah. In fact, we can stay on the subject of the media misinterpreting the law. Well, not misinterpreting, but not reporting well on legal issues. And here we are. The buffer zone law, we've been talking about that a lot. Gillian McKay is now talking about extending it from 200 meters to, well, who knows, whatever. The law makes provision for that. You don't need to pass a new law to extend it. The Scottish ministers could say the buffer zone around the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow is 200 meters, but we want it to be 300 meters. And they could just do it like that. So she's saying she wants to do that. But more importantly, is this: abortion buffer zone legislation not enforceable when clinics close. This is in the Herald. Basically, someone's leaked some correspondence between Police Scotland and Gillian McKay, and the correspondence was about the Scottish Family Party's protests we've had within buffer zones when the clinics closed. So let's see what it says. So the email exchange was sparked after the MSP sought clarity about a protest held outside the Sandifer Clinic in Glasgow by the Scottish Family Party on the 12th of April, which was closed due to it being a Saturday. Responding, the inspector referenced a similar incident in March at a clinic in Edinburgh, which was us as well, where advice had been sought and officers told the ban could not be enforced and the Crown would not prosecute if the facility was not open. The advice given from a Police Scotland senior solicitor and from the Procurator Fiscal Depute was that the premises were closed and the threshold for a breach of the legislation was not met, which is exactly what we've been saying, because you have to influence a person in the buffer zone for the purpose of accessing the clinic. So the report goes on to say, the police said in their email to Gillian McKay, I fully suspect that the Scottish Family Party has also taken legal advice themselves and been advised in a similar fashion to the above, hence their choice to hold the event on a Saturday. Police officer, you don't fully suspect we had legal advice. I told you we'd taken legal advice. But anyway, but to be honest, we barely needed it because we can understand sentences of the English language. So anyway, Gillian McKay replied, saying this is a very surprising and disappointing intervention from Police Scotland. I mean, disappointed that they explain what the law means.
Disappointed they can read English.
Disappointed they're not arresting us.
Yes.
Then she says, the intention of my act, it's always my act, the intention of my act has always been for buffer zones to apply all day, every day, like most laws. This was made very clear during the passing of the act. Well, Gillian, I wouldn't have thought I need to explain this, but laws don't work by what you wish they said. Yeah, it's no good saying it's my law and I intended it to. Well, bad luck. The law is what was passed. The law is what's in black and white on paper. But Gillian McKay seems to think she's got some special authority to interpret the law because it's her law. So the committee scrutinized the act. The committee scrutinized the act, discussed proposals that would have limited the operating hours of buffer zones, but did not support any of them and were not moved or included in the legislation. Again, that just shows she still doesn't understand the point.
Yeah.
But the reporter in this article as well doesn't make the core point clear. The core point is to commit the crime, you have to influence, etc., a person in the buffer zone for the purpose of accessing the clinic. I mean, how difficult is it? Yeah, even in this report in the Herald, they can't lay out the logic of it. It's as though they don't quite grasp it. So Gillian McKay says, I will be writing to Police Scotland and will seek an urgent meeting with them and the Scottish government to ensure that the law, wow, she said the law instead of my law, is being enforced and that there are consequences for people who breach it. But we're not breaching it. So in other words, this is making it more explicit. Gillian McKay is putting pressure on Police Scotland to arrest us, even though she's been told by the police's lawyers and the Procurator Fiscal's office that we're not breaking the law.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, let's not make too big a thing of it, but this is out of order.
Yeah. The question is for them to respond to that. If they did decide to now, do an arrest for whatever the reason being, it is under pure political pressure and not the law. And I think for me that is much more concerning. Not only that, but given that she says my law, when governments change and let's say she no longer represents or is part of the political system, I guess at that point the law will be going with her when she leaves as well. Because that's the problem with my law, is that you're the only one who's she's the only one who's enforcing it's there, the only one who wants it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets changed pretty quickly.
The other key thing to remind everyone of is when I communicated with Police Scotland about our event on the 12th, you can watch it in the video, the police officer said to me, basically, you will be arrested if you do this. Yeah. And I said, well, it's not illegal. And they said, well, you'll be arrested and then it can be settled in court. So
the court will decide. Yeah, the court. He threatened. They said the court. The courts are going to make that judgment. Like you are going to get arrested and go to court, and they're the ones who are going to decide whether this is illegal or not.
But at that point, did he already know that the Crown Office had said no one's going to court for this?
I wonder.
Again, in which case, let's not try and make it into a huge thing, but that's wrong. Yeah. Police can't do that. You can't threaten people to arrest them when you know that they're... Anyway, we'll see. This story will continue. When we did our protest in Glasgow, there were a lot of press photographers there. There was quite a few counter demonstrators. Fine. But there wasn't any publicity. Gillian McKay didn't comment on it. So we thought maybe we're at the end of the road with that. But I think maybe we're not. I'm not sure we need to do any more demonstrations. But I think there's another chapter to this story still to come. Watch this space. Right, let's leave that for now. We've just got a few minutes. Now I've got another video to show. Right, I'll take this. This is the pro-life chain, Spuck's pro-life chain on Saturday in Edinburgh. Was very good. About 150 people there. It was a bit down on last year, but I think the Pope's funeral might have competed for the loyalties of a few people who might have been there, which is fine. But it's very good. You can see it's what it's always like with pro-life things, isn't it? Very peaceful and calm and gentle, and that was all good. I'll speed it up a bit so we can get to the other end of the line. So Right, there we go. That was that. Now, on the other side of the road were counter-protesters, as there always are at this. Last year, I think we had the communists there. But this time, there were more counter-protesters than before. No, not as many as on the other side, but there are quite a few. So I thought I'll probably make a video. I'll go over and film them. I'll just walk along and video the line of protesters. The organisers said, don't talk to anyone, don't interact with anyone. But I thought, I'm not going to talk to them. I'll just go and film. So this is what happened. Oh yeah, just to apologise. This video is unedited, so it's the sound you need to listen to in particular. I just clicked the wrong thing. And I'll get it back. Don't worry. Hang on. I think it's that one. Yep. Here we go. Just as with perpetual indulgence.
There he is again. Same man, same year.
Hey. Can you go back to your own side, please?
Police!
Please, can you get him back to
Richard Lucas! And fuck off!
Oh dear.
So, they're calling the police as they're on like the most wanted man in Scotland. So they said, police, this is Richard Lucas here. This is your big chance to get him.
Yeah.
And they've been really aggressive, shoving placards in my face. Basically, someone tried to snatch my phone off me. Anyway,
because he's a Christo fascist and he isn't well.
Christo fascist. That's okay. Well,
Welcome him and his UKIP history. Fuck off. Fuck off.
Will you please go back to your side of the road? Will you please go back to your side of the road? We're not engaging with you. Back to your side of the road. We're not engaging with you.
Don't behave yourself, Mr.
yeah, they're saying they're not engaging with me while they're doing that. Basically, there were a couple of police officers at the end, so I just gave them a wave and beckoned for them to come over. So you'll hear a police officer talking in a minute. He was very good, actually. He was very sensible. So here we go.
Lucas, please. Nobody's interested in the content you're creating.
He's coming.
He's coming along filming. He's trying to make content. He's trying to make money.
But there's been people,
this.
okay, there's been people coming up and down filming all day.
That's fine. This
Okay.
is Richard Lucas of the Family Party. He's well known for it.
Okay.
Putting crap online about and harassing youngsters.
But there's also been people from both sides walking up and down filming all day, so there's no difference to him doing it to anyone else.
Well, that's fine.
Okay?
Well, there's no problem with us standing in front walking his camera then, yeah?
Right, yep.
No.
Yeah, no problem.
No, as long as there's no flashback.
Well, that's fine.
Sorry. Walking along the street a minute ago. I'm sure that's not okay, is it?
No, you can't block someone from walking along the street.
I wasn't blocking him. I was actually kind of, just kind of like telling him we know who you are.
Okay.
You're Richard Lucas, ex-UKIP.
I already know.
Scottish Family Party.
Interesting what we're after.
I already know
Just
who I
this.
am. I was just filming it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
do you want to head along?
He's creating content. He's creating content to make money out of an unfortunate situation. That's right.
No, look at him. We're just walking with him. Just walking with you, Mr. Lucas. This is Scottish Family Party. This guy, the Scottish Family Party, he's against human rights in Scotland. Scottish Family Party walking here. Off you go to your.
Yeah.
Right. What do you make of those then?
Yeah. I appreciate the police. I liked his comment. People videoing all day.
Yeah, I mean, there were people walking over it and taking photographs.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they're there. I would argue to say that they're there for people to see their point of view. And I think it's very good of you to actually have gone across and said, well, I'm going to video and show your side of the story. That's a delightful kind of interaction. That's how, politics is debated. It's about showing both sides. And however, I think, it does. I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, if you've made a placard, surely you should want the message on your placard to appear as widely as possible.
Yeah.
The thing I was saying this a few recent events we've done. It's as though people on the other side, with recent things we've done, like pro-abortion protesters, it's as though they assume that the pro-life people must be breaking the law somehow. They're not quite sure what law, but surely the police should come along and do something about them. Sure, I mean, this is Richard Lucas, for goodness sake, of the Family Party. I mean, surely, police officers, surely there's something you can do, isn't there? And surely it's okay for us to behave in a way that is totally out of order, aggressive and intimidating, absolutely fitting the definition of, breach of the peace or harassment or abuse or whatever, absolutely fitting the definition of that. And they think that's fine, and think the police ought to be coming and handcuffing me for walking along, just filming a public demonstration. I'm sort of feeling a bit fed up of it, Rico. There've been a few times where I've been a bit, it wasn't pushed around this. Someone tried to take my phone off me, that I pushing placards right into my face. It's the sort of provocation that if someone, I wouldn't do it, but if someone were to, it would be quite natural for someone to get annoyed with them and like push someone out of the way, and then they'd fall and bump their head and whatever. It's going to happen. But the thing is absolutely crystal clear is the contrasting character of the two sides. If that ridiculous sister of perpetual indulgence, well, frankly, pervert, had come over and walked along the other side of the road, filming on that side, no one would have batted an eyelid.
No.
Whereas go over there, you get some screaming, aggressive, physically aggressive, obscene gestures, etc. And yet the media can take this debate, they can put it through their processor, and they can present it that it's pro-life people who are intimidating and a bit nasty. These are really the bad people. And it takes some doing with that. Any sort of pro-abortion proponent with decent values should be totally embarrassed by the behavior of their side at that sort of event. And at every event, it's the same at vigils, it's the same at other things we've done. They should be completely embarrassed to see the absolutely 100% stark contrast between like civilized people and people who are just nasty people. Where's it come from? It's partly, the hard line politically or whatever. It's partly as well that abortion is, a very emotional subject for people, and their internalized guilt, if you like, comes out as aggression when their conscience is pricked. I mean, that's a strong factor there as well.
Maybe one they would defend quite viciously for that reason.
Yes. So that was interesting. Again, now, I could probably mention this. Actually, we are going to have an event at the Sandiford Clinic before too long, but we're not going to publicize it, so there's not going to be any counter protest. That's just an internal thing. We'll go and take some photographs and video. So keep your eye open for that. In terms of events in buffer zones, will there be value in doing another one at some point? Well, maybe there will. Let's say, I think for the time being, though, our priority needs to be to clarify what's gone on behind the scenes there, just to see how that's working out. I think for an MSP as well. I mean, how does trying to get people arrested for not breaking the law, how does that sit with the MSP's code of conduct? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's a really good question, because I think the purpose of the MSP is there to represent the people and protect the people. Yeah, and to make laws. The Parliament makes laws. But Gillian McKay seems to see that it's like that it's the police's job to do her bidding, to advance her agenda. But that ain't the way the law works. You pass a law that there should be very precise, which is not. It's a mess. But then the law gets interpreted and gets applied. Yeah. And it's and if you've made a mistake in it, which basically they've made a mistake in putting this clause about for the purpose of. They've made a mistake, but you can't just say, "Oh well, we didn't really mean that." So can you arrest them in any case?
Get
them locked up. That's not the way. That's not the way it works, Miss McKay. Unfortunately for you.
She's not the first one, though. She's not the first. I think you've commented on another politician who seemed to have made laws which were vague and not clear. And
Humza Yousaf. Thinks Police Scotland is his personal police force, because it is basically. I mean, if a phone call comes in from Humza Yousaf about a nasty tweet, it's like, drop all other issues. We've got to get this bloke nailed.
Yeah.
So, at least Anna Sarwar doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Credit where it's due.
For now.
Not much, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Right, Gareth, thank you very much for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for your comments. We got to a few of them. I think there were a lot of really interesting things we had to talk about this week. So hopefully you enjoyed that as well. We'll see you next week. Now, next week, I'll try and get Andy Brady on, our candidate in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse, at least for some of the live stream. It'd be great for you to meet Andy. So, right, thanks for watching. Thanks, Gareth.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Good night.